Well, hello everybody. Welcome to episode 5 of the Tax Sisters.
Hello, welcome to fall. We got our pumpkin lattes here today.
Yeah, I don't know about fall. It's still supposed to be 105 today, but
Every September 1st, it means it's Halloween time and it's spooky season.
spooky season. I like spooky season. Yes. So how was your long weekend? Did you enjoy your extra day off?
I did. Labor Day, especially for my daughter, because it's her birthday week. She thinks Labor Day is like the best holiday because she always gets that long weekend on her birthday. So, but yeah.
That was nice. Good. That's good. I heard she played some good soccer this weekend.
She did, yeah. California, best thing about California is the weather, traffic sucks.
Yes.
But I think the weather outbats the sun.
You know, speaking of Labor Day and your daughter's favorite holiday there, I was reflecting on some things this weekend on Labor Day, and I know it sounds silly, but like, what is Labor Day and what are we celebrating? And, back in the day, given the, I'm not going to get into the history of Labor Day, but, celebrating the people, giving them some time off, of the laborers in our world to do things just like us. And even though it falls right before our extension deadline for our business returns, we still take that day. It's very much needed.
Yep.
But it made me start thinking about, okay, what is an accountant? Because I don't know about you, but I feel like that word just gets commingled with lots of other things like bookkeeping, accounting, tax preparers, all those kinds of things. Right. And I thought it would be fun today to talk about
what we do.
What is an accountant? Yeah. What do we do? And what don't we do that we hear people think we do?
Yeah.
And those kinds of things, just to maybe re-educate something. But it was funny because I was watching some reels online. Look, I'm getting good using my words here. Watching some reels online, I get kind of drawn into all the Simone Biles reels.
Oh, really?
Of watching her do the beam and it's fascinating to me. Kind of coming from a kid who thought she'd be a gymnast at one point when I was really tiny. But obviously that didn't pan out. I just get in awe of like what she can do and how easy she makes it look.
Yeah, the floor ones or what she's done, like when she does them on the floor.
And it's funny because there's some reels that are going around that are these guys, I think it's a guy and a girl, and they'll like show the reel of what Simone Biles did or another gymnast on how they, got on the just their entrance onto the beam. Yeah. And they try to redo it.
Oh,
And it's the funniest thing because they're like flipping over. But it's true. It's amazing how easy they make it look, like painfully easy.
Yeah.
And it's really not. And I think it made me think, like, what is an accountant? I mean, I can't tell you how many times people have just in passive referred to how easy it is what we do. So I thought it would be fun to spend some time on it because I guess we're just so good at it. We make it look so easy.
Yeah.
And, but we really want to talk about, like, what is it that we do? Why is it maybe not easy and takes more knowledge, practice, and know-how to do? And kind of what made me think about that when I was watching those things this weekend. So it was kind of interesting. Yeah. So, you get a lot of people that say, all we do is number crunch or put numbers in forms and it's really
just
not
it in
that
Excel real quick. You can knock it out in an hour.
Yeah, it's not that complicated, right? But we are. And I like to blame Intuit. I love Intuit for some things, but I hate them for others. Yeah. And I like to blame them because of their commercials and how commercialized they've made QuickBooks and their tax prep. They have coined the "it's so easy, do it yourself" thing that I think has gone to work against the industry as a whole and what they have to bring with their experience and expertise rather than that software can't do.
Right. And I think we tell people a lot that everyone can do something for themselves. However, QuickBooks itself is just a tool. It's just something it's the bridge to getting you where you need to be. And a lot of people who bring us their QuickBooks and all their files and all that stuff, like, oh yeah, I've been doing it all year. And I'm like, you may have been doing something. However, whatever is in there is not anything that you need. Like, it's not
accurate. Yeah. And I think we walk kind of a fine line when we try and tell people, we don't want to offend people, make them feel bad that they've put some effort into something, and that's great. but there is more to real accounting than, you know, is this for my automobile? Is this a utility? Is this, you know, categorizing expenses? Because I think when you get out of the weeds of just categorizing things and you really look at what's a profit and loss, P&L, and what's a balance sheet, and what do they mean to your business, and what goes on which one, and what's tax deductible and what's not, and how does depreciation work, and what's an asset, and all these kinds of things, those questions aren't just about categorization. And I think the sad part is just like you were referencing spreadsheets. You know, one of my famous terms, I think coming from my engineering days, garbage in, garbage out. You know, and I think we don't know that it's garbage, but when you're not, the tool will let you do whatever you want. It's not going to tell you, no, you can't put this here. Because that's advertising and not a cost of goods or whatever the case may be. It's not going to tell you you're doing things wrong. It's going to let you do it. Now, in some cases, there are things that are fairly simple. But when you look at the whole picture, it's really not that simple. So we get stuff.
And I think what people don't realize is that, like, well, it's just very simple. I just got to add my transactions in there and it's fine. But like you mentioned, like, hey, we got to take into consideration the tax laws. We got to take into consideration once your tax returns are done, all that stuff has to be tied out to your tax returns. Like your books are it's life form of your business. So yes, it may seem like a simple, like, oh, my profit and loss looks fine. I threw all my transactions in there. But if one thing goes astray and you're not really aware of how to know when things are astray, how do you know when they're correct?
Like, sometimes on the surface they look fine, and then until you start peeling back the layers of the onion, and then you can find the causes of some of these problems. It takes, that's why forensic accounting is actually a thing, is because it takes sometimes some digging. We've worked with people that have come to us and said, hey, I know it's not perfect, but I did this, but let's get it cleaned up, and I'm going to start needing some regular help on my books. And lo and behold, as we're cleaning things up, because we're really digging through everything, we actually found that the client was being embezzled from. And
it's happened actually a couple times.
It's happened a few times where we were able to trace certain things that they didn't see that we could see. And, you know, and you're talking to the tune of $20,000, and sometimes even more. And those kinds of things actually pay for our services. I mean, we haven't even get into the tax implications of a lot of these things. And that's kind of why I kind of say bookkeeping is a dirty word or a bad word, you know. Because I think to equate accounting to bookkeeping, I think bookkeepers are useful in some areas of accounting, obviously, but they tend to focus on categorization and transaction level type of stuff. Very good for accounts receivable, maybe accounts payable types of things that are, you know, fairly straightforward and routine, but they are not versed in the tax laws. So that's where we tend to find the mistakes. You know, if I've seen bookkeepers that weren't even up to the changes that entertainment's not tax deductible anymore. We still have meals and entertainment, and they're putting people's golf in there because they don't realize that that has to be peeled out now, because those aren't tax deductible things. And they need to be either indicated as a non-deductible line item. Doesn't mean the business can't spend it. It's just not going to be deductible for tax purposes. So when you look at an accountant, we're looking at things holistically as well, you know, so we can take that step back, look at the business for, you know, all the tax implications around it, look at whether or not they're going to have a tax bill, you know, and going back to our entity structures, you know, different entity structures are going to have different looks to their books and how we track things, and different rules. So that makes a difference. So it's not a very blanket thing.
I think that's what really separates us is a couple different ways, right? Like the pre-advisement to items, like people can come to us, ask questions before they can make those, you know, decisions based on their business. And when we're in the middle of things, right? Like we're going through people's, you know, books and financial, and be like, hey, I see that you're doing this. You're buying whatever spa memberships for your employees. Let's talk about that a little. Whereas a bookkeeper might just keep chugging along, right? That's their job. They just know that they just need to get through it. That's their work. They're categorizing what needs to be done. But for us, it's more of like, hey, let's look at this full circle. Let me tell you the benefits or maybe the disadvantages of doing this. And then it's not a surprise to them because when, bookkeepers all year long, they're just getting the work done and it comes to tax time and say people like us, we get their thing. I'm like, oh yeah, that's great. It's on your financials, but that won't go, that won't go, that won't go. And they're like, what do you mean it didn't go? It's been
like that forever.
It's been like that forever. And I'm like, well, that's not the law,
Yeah.
And it takes people by surprise.
It takes people by surprise. And you have to be careful because when you start looking at audits from tax purposes, when you segment your bookkeeping or your accounting from like your tax preparation, there's no ownership because typically the business person or owner is hiring these people because they know or realize they don't know how to do what they do. So they autonomously let these players help them, which might be great. But if you end up with a tax preparer, like most people will do, is just take your financials the way you provide them and prepare a tax return. Their job is not to go dig underneath those transactions to see if your bookkeeper did things properly. They're going to assume it was done properly. That's their job.
Right.
And when you get audited, guess what? It's your responsibility as the business owner, what was done right and what was done wrong. You can yell and scream all you want, but at the end of the day, the onus is going to be on you. And I think that's why when you look at accounting holistically, like we do, and we look at the best way to help even the smallest of businesses, even ones that haven't opened yet, right?
Yeah.
The proper accounting leads to proper tax preparation, leads to proper documentation. So in the event of an audit, your tax return should match your financials.
Yeah, to
and
the T.
I will tell you 90% of the time when I get some new clients' books in, they don't match, not even remotely. So we have to make sure that that's there. It's not only supposed to help you run your business, where you're profitable, manage your tax obligation, but also audit proof as much as we can with some of the compliance stuff we talked about on different types of entities. So it's definitely not easy.
No.
We do appreciate that everybody thinks we make it look really easy. I certainly don't think Simone Biles would get offended if someone told her what she did was easy because she knows you might break your neck.
Yeah.
Now, we won't make you break your neck. You might end up in tax jail or something, but that's...
It's actually funny you talk about Simone because I've seen this, one of the people I follow, it's like Insta famous guy, right? He was like, I don't want to believe all these Olympians are that great at what they do, like say whatever, the 100-meter dash, until you put a normal person and have them race right next to them. Because then I can physically or, actually see how great they are. Wouldn't that be hilarious?
Like that's actually kind of true. Let's race me.
Yeah. Let's put a normal Joe Schmo and have them try to do what are those rings that those men do in gymnastics? Like, I wouldn't even be able to get myself up there.
What about pole vaulting?
No, like I don't even know how to run with a pole. Like you just think about stuff like that. Like put a normal Joe Schmo out there and then you can see how great they really are. And that's kind of like us, right? Like people doing their books all the time. And I look at them, I'm like, oy vey, like what happened?
Well,
what went astray?
Well, the other problem is too, sometimes we can show people, hey, here's what's not correct and we'll fix it.
Yeah.
And maybe even here's what would have happened tax-wise if we didn't fix this.
Yeah.
Maybe open their eyes a little wider, be like, that mistake would have cost you $5,000 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it also is what makes our job a little bit of what I like to call a thankless job because we're saving people from a lot of times from what they don't see.
Yeah.
So if you don't feel the pain of making the payment to the IRS because you have a great accountant that saves you from that, it's hard to continually justify the value because of what you're not having to pay.
Right.
No, we tend to get a little bit more appreciation from people that come in and got whacked with some, $10, $20, $30,000 tax bills, and then only come to find out it's because they're just not keeping proper track of things and doing things properly. And then all of a sudden, they might be happy the next year because we cut that bill in half or something like that.
Yeah.
But then, maybe the following year they expect that bill is going to be cut in half again, and that's not the case. It's an ongoing management of your tax liability, your overall tax liability. So
I think that's what we like the most about our jobs. I mean, obviously we're kind of weird for wanting to do the back end of accounting I think I told you the other day that article came out that the accountant job in general is like a dying breed. No one wants to get into accounting anymore, which I can understand. The IRS is like grilling us like no one's business lately. But like our main part of our job, we truly do like helping people, like showing them like, hey, if you open this door, here are the other options, or let me help you get that fixed. Like when we do these huge projects, you can see the burden that comes off these people's backs because they know they've been, I don't know, literally under a rock for so long. They're like, I've been burying my hair. I haven't done this in years. I know it's bad. Yeah. I need to get my taxes done. And once they're free of that, it really is like a really enlightening experience for both parties. I love helping people get on the freaking greener side of grass.
Yeah, so when we say what is an accountant, I'll tell you what we're not. I am not a professional scapegoat.
Nope.
Don't blame me for what you don't do correctly in your business.
Yeah.
We do want to help. We want to save people, but we are not the person you pay to blame, basically. And I think that business owners that get the most out of the services that we provide are engaged in what we do. They truly want to see how their business is performing. What do the numbers mean?
Yeah, learn about it.
And how to make their business better from what those numbers are telling us, or plan accordingly because it looks like they're going to have a decent tax burden this year. Then we have time to react. What we don't have time to do is when people come to us in, March and their business return is due in 15 days and they've done nothing, or they're like, well, we prepare it, and they're like, but what else can I do? Well, that time is past.
Right.
We can't help you on last year's stuff this year. There's very, very few mitigation opportunities, and they're usually around some type of retirement contribution or
just
special tax credit on your obligation. So when you come to your tax preparer and it's after the fact and you're asking them, what can I do? It should be a heads up right there that you're too late to the game and you really need to engage earlier. We are an expense to your business. That is true, a tax deductible one at that. But if you outsource this, we often are, more often than not, cheaper than hiring an employee.
Yeah.
Definitely than asking your admin or office manager to manage your books, or your mom or your sister, because while it seems like things might be getting done, you could be hurting yourself more than helping yourself. And I think it's just, you get so much more out of it when you're engaged in that whole process.
Right. Agreed. Yeah. And I think another thing that we do kind of in the background more often is the constant education. So I think, just from the IRS alone, and updates throughout the year, we send between a dozen plus emails about, hey, here's the newest update. Here's something that's coming out. Let's remind you about your quarterly payments. The education on the forefront is a lot, right? Because
it is
running the business and being good at being a business owner, but also keeping on top of your financials and then keeping up with all the new laws. And we're probably about to see a ton of new laws with our presidency changes, is a lot to manage. So we try to keep that education forefront because you don't want to learn about things a year later, right? And that's what we see a lot on TikTok. Oh, well, you should have been being an escort for the last 3 years. But, when things come to the surface and we think that they have a benefit to our clients, we try to stay on that almost right on top of cue.
Yeah, and you can get, it can be both ways. People think you over communicate, you under communicate. We're definitely not the accountants you're ever going to complain you never hear from, because you're going to hear from us every month. And whenever there's new changes out there or things we need people to be aware of, Corporate Transparency Act, reasonable compensation, just a couple from these past 12 to 24 months, that I think the worst mistake a business owner can make is assuming that everything stays the same.
Right.
And they do, because I can't even count on my hands and toes here how many times when I do a tax return, somebody says, but I made the same as last year. How come I owe more? Or how come it's different? And what they're not realizing is the underlying things that cause that are tax law changes, regulations. We've had some big hits lately with depreciation going from 100% to 80% to 60%.
Yeah.
I mean, these are causing big tax hits on our business owners. And the number one thing is like, you should never expect everything to stay the same because change is inevitable. Change is going to be there. And in our tax system, it is constant. Right down to, we don't know in December if we're going to get a whole bunch of tax law changes that are retroactive to the beginning of the year that actually change how we've been doing accounting all year long. Like, it can be just like that. So
yeah, and especially like with our just taxes, we wait up until the tax software releases our forms to see if anything's going to change. Like, we're just actively waiting.
We're always looking and watching, and we try to stay ahead of it. If we know there's going to be, we're getting towards reasonable comp was a good one, where we're getting towards more regulation on S Corps and their compensation, we're proactively rolling out ways for our clients to comply with that ahead of when they have to comply, because the hiring of these 87,000 IRS agents is not, no surprise.
So they can shuffle paperwork.
Right. Oh. There are specific targets of things where they know they can harvest tax income from.
Yeah.
And the more we can keep up the walls to prevent them from getting to it, whether that's through the reasonable comp documentation or teaching people the best ways, the easiest ways usually it comes to like tracking your mileage on your business vehicles. And because nobody likes to write all that down, and I get it.
Yeah.
But in an audit, these are the things that they're going to go after first because they know people don't do it. And when they disallow those expenses, what does that do? It increases your tax liability.
Yeah.
So we really are appreciative that we make things look easy. But I know that deep down, anyone that looks at our tax code, which can fill 10-story buildings, I believe, at this point in time, will know it's just really not that easy. And it's constant education for us even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think even lately, with just the random surge of paperwork we've gotten from the IRS, random letters, even though they might not even be proper letters, they're kind of chaotic at this point. But people have asked me, why would they hire so many agents? Well, they figured if they hire 87,000 agents, they had to have done the math. Their return on their investment must be two or threefold. So like, I'll hire 87,000, whatever their salaries are all going to be. I can make $1 billion in taxes. Of course, they're going to
additional revenue.
Shove.
Did you hear, speaking of all those letters that are coming out, that's actually fun because I'm getting a lot of people like, I never used to got these letters before, and we just started with you, and now we're getting letters, and it's like, oh, whoa. Nothing to do with us. The letters galore going out. What I was reading into a lot is now the IRS has implemented artificial intelligence into their systems, their automated systems that analyze returns. So you have to understand when we e-file returns, they're feeding into a giant computer database where it's taking your business codes or your personal, statistically measuring and calculating what you've done in the past and what you've done today versus if you're a business, what is within the bell curve of what someone in your business will do. And when something is an outlier, it's a trigger. And now they're integrating artificial intelligence, which we've picked up on a few notices that when you read them, they really don't make 100% sense, like that a human wrote them.
Literally, I saw one that someone posted that it said, we are sending this form to you for, and then nothing.
Yeah, it was blank.
It was blank.
So
a blank form.
So you have to understand that there's a lot, this is happening everywhere, but like now it's coming into that. So there's going to be a ton more letters going out for seemingly.
This is just the beginning.
Yeah, we've seen quite a few where people have just been, they get a letter in the mail and it's just, hey, random, send us all the documentation on all your meal expenses.
Send me the copy of the W-2s that you.
Oh yeah, send me a copy of the W-2s. We see just randomly, seemingly strange stuff that hasn't been asked in the past, and we are going to see more of that. And as AI gets integrating into our industry, the IRS, everything, we're going to start seeing more and more. So it's more important that we lock these things down and we try and help people stay as compliant as inexpensively as they can. And do the right thing so that when these letters come back, it's like, yeah, boom, respond to that letter, we're done.
Yeah.
Not respond to that letter. I don't know what you mean. And they turn that into a sit-down audit because they decided you're a nice target.
It's for sure. I know without a doubt in my mind that they will continue to hire people, put more intelligence in, because they know there's so much money left on the table that they have to move forward and start getting the people that have been sliding by. And a lot of people are sliding by. We know how loose people run things in general, right? Like,
totally.
We have to start following the rules, staying in between our box, and
working within the system. And you want to save tax dollars, you work within the system legitimately.
And there are there are ways to use the tax code to your advantage. However, you have to know the tax code.
Yes.
That's the first step.
Yep. I agree.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about maybe some tips and tricks for the viewers. What should they do, as a brand new business? What they need to be aware of. We talked a little bit in our other episodes, like, what's the purpose of setting up a good foundation, whatever. But one of the things that we tell people that, who are getting starting, or even people who have been in business for 1 or 2 years and they're trying to find the right person to partner with, like an accountant or a tax preparer, it's super important that you are aware of what you need to accomplish.
So leveling expectations.
Correct. I have some people that come to me and they're like, well, I don't know, I haven't done anything, I don't even know what I need, I just need that it's done. Well, it's really hard to get a grasp of your whole business situation when you don't know what's not being done. I don't know if you're going out to the field and, you're providing this service, or you sell, like, for example, so that one client that said, oh, yeah. All I do is I make, soaps and I sell them on Etsy, and that's it. And then we find out that they're going to the markets or the Gilbert Farmer markets and selling them for cash and,
not counting
it. And they have to pay the vendors in cash, and they also tip the people who are working the vendors. And I'm like,
or they have a sales tax license so that they can buy their supplies tax-free, but then never file a sales tax return.
Right. So it's super hard for people who are like, I have no idea what needs to be done. And they come to us and, and they're like, just get it done before taxes. I'm like, hold on here. Like, I need to know what you're doing. And I think having a full understanding of what your business is doing is super important. So, coming to an accountant, you should know, here are all the things that I'm selling. Here's how I do it, when I do it, where I do it, those things. Here's what I've accomplished. I'm not doing anything in QuickBooks. I have this many accounts, this credit card, this loan. Where's my money coming in from? Some people have Square, Stripe, whatever. PayPal, Venmo. They're getting money on Zelle, but it's their best friend's partner's Zelle because they're not allowed to have Zelle.
I've seen a few of those.
Like, you got to tell me what's going on or I can't properly help you. So I think knowing all those things is super important. And I think just being super structured, right? Like, we have people that come to us all the time. Oh, yeah, I have all these bank accounts, but I don't know the passwords to them. Like, you got to be joking, right? Like, you can't get me what you need from your business bank account.
I'm laughing, but I'm not laughing.
So I think that would be one of the most important advices that people come to me. Please come to me with what you're capable of getting me.
It's the classic, help me, help you.
Totally.
Without understanding that, we can't give you just miracle advice.
And I think we still struggle with it with the people that we help with religiously. They're like, oh, I don't know the password to that. Well, I'm going to need you to know the password to that. Like, I need you to give me as much as I'm willing to give you.
Right.
And it's so hard because I know new business owners are so busy. You have to manage running your business, taking care of your family, taking care of yourself, even managing your personal lives. But there has to be a level of responsibility that you as a business owner can take to want to fix it as much as I am willing to fix it for you as well.
Engaging an accountant and having a successful experience is more than just a dump and run.
Yeah.
You have to participate. It's a partnership. It's no different than, even if you hired someone inside your business, you want to hold them accountable to certain things. And and that's why we caution people when they say, I'm coming to you for help as an accountant. I need an accountant. I have a bookkeeper already. And then when we look at their books, I'm not saying the bookkeepers don't do an okay job. Some do, some don't. there's almost always problems with it.
Yeah.
The disconnect from the just categorizing world to tax world and proper, GAAP accounting, to what they're getting done. And the problem is the business owners, they interview or they hire these people that says, oh yeah, I know what I'm doing. But they don't know what they're doing. So they don't know how to oversee it. Right. And I think that's what you get extra when you hire a credentialed professional, when you have true accountants that know what they're doing, also understand the tax rules.
Yeah.
Like we're enrolled agents. We aren't just random tax preparers out there. We are obligated to stay up on everything that's changing all the time. We do it anyway, but we have continuing education. We're constantly, in conferences and trying to, understand the next best thing or how this new rule might impact our clients and what we're going to need to do to mitigate that. That takes a lot of knowledge. And when you hire that level of expertise, then you could be more comfortable, stepping back and feeling like things are getting done properly.
Right.
But when you try and save a few bucks by, hiring a $20 an hour bookkeeper versus a much more expensive accountant and so forth, and I don't even think you'll get a bookkeeper for $20 an hour. I should have said 50, but whatever. You're cutting out that value that you're gonna get by having everything done by somebody who knows what they're doing.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's interesting. And when you look at people that come and shop for just tax preparers, or they come from another tax person too, and they're just like, well, I have a bookkeeper and I just had a tax person, seemed to work fine. They never questioned anything. And then here we are pointing out all these problems. Sometimes people get a little frustrated.
Yeah.
But you also have to remember, when you disconnect those processes and those things, the blame game is going to start to happen. Whose fault is it? What were they doing?
They each do their own job, and they're happy just doing their own job.
And the thing about tax preparers, I mean, to be honest, if you really got a good hard look at our tax code, your brain would explode. But what I'm trying to explain is we're also almost like not saying, like I always say, we're like doctors.
Yeah.
There's different types of doctors. There's general practitioners, there's pediatricians, there's heart surgeons, there's up-teen specialties, and really understanding what your tax accountant is, what's in their wheelhouse and what's not. One thing I could tell you is when I get something I'm not comfortable with, I won't take it. I don't want to practice on someone else's return. I will go re-educate myself and do that, and then I can take that on. But what you have to understand is that, there are accounts that specialize in self-employed, in businesses, in corporations even, bigger corporations. Yeah. And knowing who you're hiring for what your need is extremely important to making sure that connection happens, and then you can get that return on your investment. Yeah. Hiring some highfalutin, accounting firm, I'll just make fun of Price Waterhouse here, Price Waterhouse Coopers, that's not necessary for somebody, that is just building, a three location coffee house. Yeah. Those kinds of things aren't necessary. Now, will they eventually get you there? Yeah. But will you get some type of return on your investment? Probably not. Yeah. But that's because their focus is on much bigger clientele with more specific needs. So you should be looking for someone that really specializes in
where you fit in.
Like if you're a stock day trader, that's not necessarily a business accountant. You want someone that specializes in stock day trading. It's completely different beast than somebody who is self-employed, either selling on Amazon or running a coffee shop or doing construction. Right. So you want to make sure that all of those things are brought under. Yeah. And that's where that real value is going to come in. You can't always just look at the price tag on the front of it, because it's what's it going to get me back, and what am I not going to have to worry about by doing this. And that's why you hear a lot of really famous financial people that'll say, when you start a business, the best thing to do out of the chute is find the best accountant for you and find the best attorney for you. Yeah. And keep your circle small, because those are the advisors you're going to lean on the most. Right. And that's right down to, I have people that call me, I'll say at dinner time, I don't care, they do. I'm at the car dealership right now. Do I need to buy or lease? What's the best thing? Love it. Bring me those questions before you do it, because it's when after they do it and they do it wrong that becomes a problem. So we want to be an integral part of that process.
Yeah. And was just going off on what you're saying is that a lot of people kind of we've seen it a lot. They cycle through tax accountants, and it's hard, right?
Yep.
They coming through. They're like, "You're the third one I've had in 30 years," and people tell me what you're looking for, so I'm able to hit those marks. Yep. And I think a lot of people don't have that conversation of what are you actually needing? What are you looking for in a tax accountant? Are we going to vibe, as a personal relationship as well? Because also, I mean, just think about just in regular life. You don't like the person, things aren't really going to grow or
exactly personality
fits
very
well.
Mm-hmm. That makes, and it's funny you say that about people, like what when they go through a lot of accountants, like what didn't work for them, and the things we hear. They say the top two. One, I email or call my accountant, they never get back to me in a timely manner. That's one, which we're going to talk about each of these. And two, they don't ever reach out to me during the year or give me any advice on what I could be doing differently. Those are probably the two top ones I hear because I do ask people, why are you switching accountants? What didn't work for you? Because that's an expectation right there. There's some type of expectation not being met. And with these two, it's really important. The first one is saying that my accountant never got back to me. And I always tell this to everyone that works for me. I'm like the anti-accountant when it comes to that, because I don't stick to that stereotype. It aggravates me. And I know what it's like to be busy and not be able to get back to people, but we're in a service type of industry. Right. And we make a point to get back to everybody. If there's some reason something even goes a day or two, it's probably because I'm on vacation or, the email slip through the cracks. It does happen, but it is not our norm. And my staff is drilled into them that the client can never be waiting on us to do something like that was an expectation of the service we provide, and we communicate at least monthly, regularly with our clients. Okay. But what they don't tell you is the flip side of that is it's just as important that the client communicate back with us. Just because they hire us and they pay a monthly fee to do this work, if you're not getting back to us on, we call them AMA, which ask my accountant, there's transactions we don't really understand or need more clarification as to what they are. They'll be like, oh, that's the tractor I bought last month. Well, that's great. Now I need the asset documentation. Like, if they let that go the whole year, what are they not getting? They're not getting the best possible. We're not getting the best possible information, so we can't give them the best possible updates. Like, what's my tax liability going to look like? Well, unless you answer these 100 questions from all year long, it's kind of hard to give you real accurate results. And we try and look at forecasts and tax liability and all that kind of stuff. So it's equally as important that you communicate back to your accountant. And I stress that because when people ever say that, I'd be like, look, this is a partnership, a two-way street. I promise you won't be waiting on me. And if you ever are, rub my nose in it. Like, tell me I reached out to you 3 times, you didn't get back to me, because, mistakes happen. I'm human. But when I've reached out to you and you haven't responded for 6 months and then you're mad that you owe money at the end of the year, it's not the accountant's fault. We have to get to a point where people understand the partnership. So I think that communication, while it is a very real stereotype for our industry, we kind of have the same expectations of our clients. And the second thing, what was the second thing? I already forgot.
I already forgot the second thing.
That's not even fun. That's not even funny. The second thing that we already forgot, we'll come back to, but
and that's the thing when you're talking about like we need your help as much as you need our help. And it's true, right? Like, I'm not working day to day with your business. I can't see that you went to Costco and you bought 2 new office fridges. When you go to Costco, you can literally buy everything. You could have bought freaking 8,000 hot dogs for all I know. Diapers, whatever. I don't know what you're buying. So there is a push and pull, right? Like, I have to give you stuff so you can give it back to me. And it's true. Like, we have people who have gone on for a whole year. I know you're super busy and I know it takes so much to run a business, but your financial little globe here has to be the most important part. You can't just skip on it for a whole year. At least get back to me every other month if you can't get back to me once a month.
You should be able to make time for your business finances on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Whether that means setting aside time once a week, once a month, whatever is needed. This is your financial. This is your livelihood. It should be one of the most important things to your business.
And
not
you should
just
want to
collecting.
know where it stands, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I do remember the second thing. The second thing that people come to us and say is that their last accountants just never followed up with any kind of advice on how to reduce their tax liability and stuff like that. I blocked that out because nobody ever says that about me. But I, in turn will say, well, I recognize that can be a problem. However, what people need to understand is if you're hiring someone to just prepare your taxes, their job is not to give you tax advice on what to do better, especially if you filed an extension, you're doing your taxes in October. It's a little late to be worrying about what you're going to do this year to mitigate taxes. So I think that people don't understand that when you engage somebody to prepare taxes, it's to prepare the tax returns. Yeah. It's not to necessarily
create a mock-up of the whole
give you
life of your business.
Here's what you should have done differently. Here's what you should do this year. Now, there can be some conversations to that if you start them, but if you're expecting that level of feedback, I will tell you, engaging earlier with your accountant is going to be key. Yep. Having current financials is going to be key. And to ask if they provide a service that allows them to do better tax planning. And by tax planning, I don't necessarily mean it's always going to be a savings, but it's understanding what you're going to owe, what your tax liability is going to look like in advance. Yeah. It's a completely different service and mindset than tax preparation. Yeah. Now, it doesn't mean a tax preparer can't give you some really basic things that we see all the time, like, oh yeah, well, if you just contribute to your 401k right here, or your IRA, we can take that deduction and reduce your taxes by $1,000. Okay, great. Yeah. That's something we can do after the fact, or that someone can plan on doing next year, and it's pretty obvious when we're doing your return. What's not obvious is how you're operating your businesses to get to the financials you provided in the first place. Right, yeah. So tax planning and having that, so I try to educate, well, if that's an expectation of yours, then this is the services we provide that will allow you to do that. Yeah. I
actually told someone this example, it's probably about a month ago. Whatever, it's one of our clients. And they were just going on and on about they don't know what to do, et cetera. But they're talking about last year, right? We're trying to do their taxes for this year. And they're like, well, what if I would have done this? And I'm like, well, last year, during this time, you got to think about it. You ever play Candyland?
Yes.
Yeah. Candyland, there's two roads, but we have to be in that moment to take either road. You can't take either road for last year now. No. So you have to be in the moment. That's why staying engaged. Be like, hey, I'm about to do this. Which one should I do? And that's when you're in Candyland. Should I go to the green brick or should I go to the red brick to the left? I need to know now.
I want to go down the slide.
The slide's Chutes and Ladders.
Well, see, I guess it's been a while since I played Candyland, but I like Chutes and Ladders better. So
yeah. So, but that's the example I gave them. I was like, you can't take a different road for last year. We are at this road now. So finding that, you got to find a happy medium of what makes you go. But intertwining your accountant on a regular basis, like you said, every week, you got to 20 minutes. Can you give me 10 minutes?
I agree.
Start your dinner 10 minutes or end your dinner 10 minutes earlier and do like, all right, let me just answer
people just
email.
Put 10 minutes into it instead of continuing to procrastinate the stuff they can't stand, which I totally get. Yeah. We all procrastinate.
It's not the greatest thing
some
to
things.
Touch on, yeah.
But, just like they say with exercise, it can become a habit. Don't get me started, but I'm just saying, just 15 minutes a day, just 6 minutes a day.
And I get it, because I don't want to give 15 minutes to go get a little.
Not when I can have a cookie or an ice cream cone. So
I could probably do about 3/4 of a mile in 15 minutes.
Yeah, me too.
Maybe.
So we get it. We do, because we all have things we want to put off and procrastinate. But like your business, just like my business and your business,
it's your livelihood.
It's your livelihood, and you should care about it. So I think, in recap of today's episode, we just want to stress to all of you that what we do is not as easy as we like to make it appear.
We do want to make it easy for you, though.
Yes, we do. But understanding that accounting is an integral part, and partnering with the right people and sometimes doing it yourself is not the best road. Yeah.
Not saying that there aren't very capable people. Obviously, as us accountants, we do our own accounting. However, not everyone is accounting professional.
And there's plenty of things I don't do for my own business that I have to outsource. So
right, like the audio for this video. We have struggled for 4 episodes to get perfect audio. So that's why someone else handles our audio. But we just wanted to say that, you know, there's help out there. You guys should seek that help. There are many professional people that are willing to go the extra mile so you are aware. You can be educated. They are willing to impart that information on you, and you should take it.
And understand the value and the return on your investment that you're putting into your business.
Right.
If you're segmenting your bookkeeping and tax preparation, 90% of the time you're not getting much of a return on your investment. Those are sunk costs.
You can't take the shoot to the next
Integrating things together and making sure you stay a part of that process, that's where the value comes in. That's where you're going to start to see it. You know, we can advise, well, if you did this differently, or if you added, I mean, here's a couple of things. I'm just going to give you an example. I know we're getting about to wrap up, but give me an example. Like an example of, like, we see somebody comes to us and they have like medical expenses on their P&L.
Yeah.
And they just want us to prepare the return. They've done it this way all the time. So they say they're an S Corp, and we're kind of like, that doesn't work like that, because they have to be part of your W-2 wages. They don't understand all the rules. The bookkeeper doesn't, or nor should they. And we're like, that's not going to work. Yeah. Now, had you only had a health reimbursement account, or had you only done this, then we can take that and make it a direct expense. But now we have to move it, you know, through your personal return and do things a little bit differently. And I think that that's what gets lost in a lot of what we do, because that would have already been done for you had you been with us. We've been see the expense. We know it's not being done properly, and you want to take that deduction, then here we're going to explain to you how to do that properly. Right. So I'm glad we can make things look easy, but please understand that what we do is by far not easy and ever changing.
Yes. I know there's some amazing quote out there, but I'm going to make my own quote about help yourselves find the education that will move you forward. Kristen Wine.
Kristen Wine, I like that. Okay. Well, thank you everybody for watching. I think next week we're going to have another special guest talking about their business.
Yes, we're actually going to reel one into the real estate kind of sector. I know that there's about 100,000 realtors in the U.S. So we're going to bring our own client in. She's going to talk about how she intertwines having an accounting team at her side, which has helped her real estate.
And save money.
And save money.
Thanks, everyone.
See you next week.